Hi, my name is Alex and I welcome you to today's video. When Wild Hearts S launches on the Nintendo Switch 2, it marks the debut of Koei Tecmo's monster hunting action title on a Nintendo platform. At its core, it's a port of the original Wild Hearts, released in 2023, now optimized, or perhaps more accurately, adapted for Nintendo's newest hardware. While the core content remains largely unchanged, a few tweaks, most notably the shift to 4-player co-op, breathe some new life into the experience. The question is, do these additions justify revisiting the hunt? Set in the fantastical, feudal Japan-inspired world of Azuma, Wild Hearts tells the story of a nameless hunter who arrives in a land overrun by massive, nature-infused beasts known as Kemono. They're manifestations of elemental forces gone rogue, twisting the environment and threatening entire regions. You quickly become the only one capable of stopping them, thanks to an ancient, mysterious technology called Karakuri. These mechanical tools, made from a special type of celestial thread, allow you to build structures on the fly: barriers, gliders, launch pads, traps, and more. They're not only used for traversal, but also to turn the tide of combat. The story itself hasn't changed in this version. It remains a well-paced, if somewhat conventional, fantasy narrative built around rebuilding towns, forging alliances, and ultimately facing off against increasingly powerful Kemono. The story shines in its sense of atmosphere and place. Azuma's different biomes, ranging from cherry blossom forests to snowy peaks, are rich with detail, even if the narrative beats themselves feel familiar. The world feels lived in, and your role as its protector slowly expands as you push deeper into enemy territory. If you've played the original game, you know what to expect. There are no new story chapters or character arcs here. But if this is your first experience with Wild Hearts, the world building and lore will likely be enough to pull you in. The real highlight of Wild Hearts S, and arguably its most meaningful improvement, lies in its gameplay. The original featured tight, responsive combat with a satisfying learning curve and creative freedom via the Karakuri system. All of that returns here intact. Every weapon class still brings its own flair, and mixing Karakuri structures into fights allows for dynamic tactics. But the big change is support for up to 4 players in co-op, up from the 3-player cap on the previous consoles. This alone makes a significant impact. Battles feel more alive, strategies become more layered, and the overall multiplayer experience takes on a level of coordination and scale that just wasn't possible before. Whether you're chaining combos together to stagger a giant boar like King Tusk, or deploying multi-person traps against an ice-breathing Deathstalker, having that extra hunter changes the flow of battle in subtle but meaningful ways. Outside of co-op, the gameplay remains faithful to the original. You'll still be gathering resources, crafting new weapons and armor from Kemono parts, exploring semi-open environments, and upgrading your Karakuri toolkit. It's a formula that works well. And while it doesn't try to reinvent itself in this port, the balance between combat, exploration, and progression still hits the right notes. The loop is rewarding. Hunt, craft, upgrade, repeat. Now with one more friend at your side. Now to the most contentious part. Technical performance. Wild Hearts S is based on the Xbox Series S version of the game, which itself was already a notable downgrade from the PS5 and Xbox Series X builds. The Switch 2 version takes another small step down in visual fidelity, and it shows. Textures are noticeably softer, foliage is sparser, and lighting effects are simplified. Some environments can appear flat or muddy, especially in handheld mode. Environmental detail, one of the original strengths, takes a hit here, making Azuma feel less immersive and occasionally more like a backdrop than a living world. In my opinion, however, this downgrade is more a result of the generally poor optimization of the original 2023 release. The Switch 2 is clearly capable of much more graphically than what's being delivered here. Framerate, however, is surprisingly decent. In docked mode, the game runs mostly between 40 and 50 frames per second, which, while short of the ideal 60, offers a relatively smooth experience overall. There are dips during intense action sequences, particularly when particle effects and multiple Kemono are on screen, but these drops don't ruin gameplay. In handheld mode, the framerate holds up fairly well, though it can dip slightly lower at times. Crucially, it never feels unplayable. The controls remain responsive and the experience stays fluid enough to enjoy, especially given the cooperative emphasis. So where does that leave Wild Hearts S? On the one hand, it's a solid and feature-complete version of a great game, now with 4-player co-op and portable convenience. On the other hand, it offers no new story content and takes a clear step back visually. If you've already played the game on a high-end system, there is little here to justify a second purchase unless you're eager to experience it on the go or with a full party of 4. But for newcomers, especially those without access to a PS5 or Series X, Wild Hearts S represents a worthwhile, if compromised, introduction to the world of Azuma. In the end, the game stands on the strength of its combat, its Karakuri system, and the added co-op functionality. These elements still shine, even if through a slightly murkier lens. If you can accept some visual sacrifices in exchange for flexible multiplayer and portability, there's a lot to enjoy here. For these reasons, I rate Wild Hearts S for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If you liked it, we would be very happy about a like and a subscription. Or if you're interested in getting early access to our future reviews, feel free to visit our Patreon page.
Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.